Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following.
The scorching hot temperatures continue for many parts of Western Canada. How long will they last in our area? Jeanette Rocher will have details for us. The Crown Prosecutor in our city is pushing to move ahead with the trial of a man accused of careless driving in the death of a 10-year-old boy. And rescuers are still combing through the rubble, trying to find more survivors of the partial collapse of a condo building in South Florida.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Many parts of Western Canada have been experiencing record hot temperatures. Here in Lethbridge, we're expecting temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, but in parts of British Columbia, it's felt more like the mid 40s. Lytton, BC set a new all-time high in Canada at 46.1 degrees over the weekend. The previous mark was 45 degrees in Saskatchewan in 1937. The sweltering heat, however, did not deter some from heading to the beach in Vancouver, BC. A heat warning remains in effect for most of Western Canada, and the agency says daily records could be broken in both BC and here in Alberta. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a sneak peek at our weather forecast. You know, it's been so hot in southwestern Alberta as well here. Are we getting close to breaking any records?
Yeah, well, today alone, we are looking at breaking a record. So yes, today's high 34 degrees. Now, on this day, back in 1984 was the last record that Lethbridge reached for this day, which was 33.5 degrees. So looking at breaking a record today. Other than that, potentially record-breaking temperatures all week long, particularly Wednesday through a Saturday. If you look at those temperatures, looking up to 37 degrees for Wednesday and Thursday, that is hot. To put that into perspective, we are going to be as hot as Las Vegas, Nevada. So to say that it's hot this week is an understatement. Environment Canada is calling this a historic heat wave because of the potential to break so many records this week. Keeping in mind, we should monitor for signs of heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Keep cool, keep in cool places. Definitely stay hydrated. I will have more on weather coming up later on in the newscast.
Some great advice. Thanks so much, Jeanette. You know, with the extreme heat wave, the city of Lethbridge has opened up a few locations around downtown that people can access to get water and take a break with some air conditioning. Emergency Preparedness Manager Luke Palmer says along with the opening of facilities for people to visit, organizations have received water to hand out.
If you do need to cool off, we're going to have areas in the city that are publicly accessible. Libraries, the mall, and as well as the park and ride downtown will be available for individuals to cool in. We've also connected with a number of our community outreach organizations to make sure that we're able to equip the vulnerable population and provide means for them to stay cool in this heat wave as well. Water will be available at Streets Alive, and water has also been available or delivered to the homeless shelter, the Resource Rehabilitation Center, and the mobile overdose prevention team.
The Park and Ride Transit Terminal is open for anyone to cool off Monday through Saturday from 6 a.m. till midnight. With the hot, dry conditions, Lethbridge County has once again issued a fire ban for our region that applies to all open fires within its municipal boundaries. Under the ban, all active fire permits are canceled and no new permits will be issued until further notice. No burning will be allowed, including recreational fire pits, household garbage or yard debris, and fireworks are also not permitted. Sad news with Canada Day just around the corner. Lethbridge police need our help locating 47-year-old Aaron Simons. He was reported missing on June 26th. He's described as 5'10", around 200 pounds with a muscular build and tattoos on both of his arms and hands. He was last seen wearing a plaid long-sleeve shirt, a white cowboy hat, Wrangler jeans, and had a goatee at the time. If you've seen Simons, please call Lethbridge Police right away at 403-328-4444. The Lethbridge Police Service and Lethbridge Police Commission have joined forces and submitted a revamped action plan to Minister of Justice Casey Madu. It was submitted on the deadline on Friday, June 25th. Jeanette Rocher has been following this story. Now, Jeanette, what's the latest with this plan?
Well, according to the Justice Minister and Solicitor General's office, they have received the amended report and look forward to reviewing it. In a written statement, they said, quote, While we acknowledge the effort that Lethbridge Police has put into the plan they previously submitted, it had a number of significant and substantive deficiencies, which is why we gave them specific input on what they need to do to incorporate their action plan to address issues that have been raised, end quote. Now, there were a number of changes the Justice Department was looking for, including specifics on the changed culture at LPS. You'll remember that in recent months, Justice Minister Casey Madu had some serious concerns and threatened to potentially dissolve the Lethbridge Police Service if they didn't submit to him an action plan by the end of April originally, which addressed some of the public concerns about the police service. This, of course, after a number of incidents involving LPS officers that painted the entire police service in a bad light. Well, that original plan was submitted ahead of the deadline in April, but about a month later, Madu informed LPS and the Police Commission that the plan was not sufficient and would need to be amended by the end of June. I spoke with Police Commission Chair Rob Van Spronson about that revamped plan that they submitted on Friday, and he says Madu's original request did not include items that he later asked for.
The action plans are actually going to be combined. So the first part will be combined with this part into one bigger piece. So this second piece just adds a bit more information and then adds some pieces that weren't there because the minister didn't ask for it on the first request. So it's a little bit bigger. It looks a lot more in the change culture piece, the management piece, in terms of we know that there's some changes that need to be done in the Lethbridge Police Service. So we want to see basically a strategy to ensure that the change is being done.
Van Spronson says the document is roughly 30 pages, not including addendums, and there's no way of knowing just how long it will take for them to hear back from the minister's office on the amended plan. Hal?
Thanks so much, Jeanette. In other news, the Crown Prosecutor is pressing to go to trial in a 14-month-old careless driving case which claimed the life of a young boy on the west side of Lethbridge. The defense, meanwhile, says it needs more time to prepare and gather evidence. The accused, Neil Martin Scott, was charged on April 13th of last year after a 10-year-old boy was struck and killed on Whoop Up Drive near Aquitania Boulevard. Two young boys were crossing in the crosswalk with their father at the time. The 10-year-old boy later died in hospital. Scott pleaded not guilty to a single charge of careless driving. The charge allows for a maximum fine of $2,000, 6 months in jail, or both. The next court hearing for the accused is July the 15th. The reconstruction of 3rd Avenue South has reached stage 3 of a redevelopment plan. Last week, crews began work between 4th and 5th Street, which now has detours in place, and paving is finishing up between 7th and 8th Street. The city's senior project administrator says the initiative first began in 2020 as a way to revitalize the downtown core.
This is considered a streetscaping project, so it's really to help revitalize the downtown. So we've got wider sidewalks to create more accessibility for people. We've got raised parking areas down here. And really with the reduction in lanes, we've got dedicated turn lanes, which should still help to move traffic, freely throughout the downtown, but also kind of reduce that speed factor that comes in through the downtown. We're really trying to encourage a lot of pedestrian movement as well as traffic movement.
The full project is anticipated to be completed by the end of the fall and is currently on track to be on budget. Terry Fox's impact on Canadians is undeniable. In 1980, Fox embarked on his Marathon of Hope across Canada to raise money for cancer research after his own leg was amputated due to the disease. He ran 5,373 kilometers over 143 days before the cancer spread to other parts of his body, forcing him to stop. June 28th marks the 40th anniversary of Terry's untimely passing in 1981. His uncle, also named Terry Fox, says his nephew was a kind-hearted young man who wanted to do everything he could to help those who suffer from cancer.
If I said, Terry, you can't do this or you can't do that, he'd find a way of doing it. He was always determined. And when he got sick and they took him to the hospital and they operated on him, they took his leg off and they said, Terry, there's no room up in the adults ward. We got to put you down in the children's ward. And he told me, he said, Uncle Terry, I was so down. Yeah, of course, a 19-year-old boy losing his leg. And he said, I got down there and the kids, some were bald. Some even couldn't get out of bed. He said, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. And then one day he told me what he was wanting to do. He was going to run across Canada. And I didn't doubt it. I knew he would do it.
The Lethbridge Terry Fox Run will take place on September the 19th. This summer, you can support Special Olympics in Alberta by competing in a 3-leg series including cycling, walking, and running. With the pandemic keeping the fundraiser virtual, participants will be able to track their progress through an app. This year's goal is $50,000. Southwest Regional Chair for the Alberta Law Enforcement Torch Run, Matthew Burton, says the main goal of the partnership between law enforcement and Special Olympics is to help raise funds for the organization.
With the pandemic, we needed to come up with a way to keep athletes and law enforcement officers occupied and busy, all while trying to raise some very well-needed funds for Special Olympics. So the idea of the virtual summer series was created to have participants bike, run, and walk over a set period of time. And we had such great success with it last year, we decided to bring it back again this year and shoot for some higher goals.
The biking portion runs through the month of July, and the walking portion will take place in August. And to wrap things up, the running portion of the event will be held in September. To register or to donate, visit specialolympics.ca/Alberta Torch Run. A community group is teamed up to bring smiles to the faces of seniors and community members in Coaldale. The Chalk and Walk event provides chalk to anyone who wants to make art on the sidewalk to brighten up someone's day. As Micah Quinn explains now, there are big prizes up for grabs for those who participate.
The Youth Do Crew is a group of young volunteers that get together to provide service projects to the community. They've been doing this for the past 3 years, and now they're back to bring cheer to Coaldale.
Things like the Chalk and Walk have been a really great COVID-safe way. We're funded by Canada Service Corps, so we receive funding through the federal government every year for this project, which we're very grateful for. And yeah, we're just super excited to be here.
Residents can grab bags of chalk and then head to the sidewalk to create their own chalk art.
And then we'll give you a little bag of candy. You can take a picture of your art and then either send it to our Instagram or post it and use our hashtag Coaldale Chalk and Walk. And then there'll be a simple question you have to answer, and your name will go into a draw, and you'll either be put into a draw for People's Choice or there'll be theme prizes, and then at the end there'll be a big giveaway.
The event featured an artist from Lethbridge who made a special themed chalk art for the day.
I had heard of Brittany Lewis. Her art page is called Jasmine and Charcoal. She does lots of chalk greetings throughout Lethbridge. She started last year, I believe, with COVID. So we reached out to her to see if she'd be interested in coming to do kind of our inaugural art piece to kick off the Chalk and Walk. And she very graciously came out and she kicked us off with a really fun summer-inspired piece over in front of the lodge.
The Do Crew will be out every 2 weeks for 6 events during the summer, and the last one will be the long weekend of September. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Canada Day is coming up this Thursday. It'll be our country's 154th birthday. She looks good for her age. The day commemorates the anniversary of the Constitution Act, which consolidated 3 territories into the single nation of Canada way back in 1867. For our poll question this week, we are asking if you're disappointed that the city of Lethbridge will not be doing anything special for Canada Day. Make sure you log on to our website, bridgecitynews.ca, and let us know your thoughts. We'll add up the votes, and because it's a short work week for us, we'll have the results for you on Wednesday evening's newscast. Now here is a very scary image. 4 people died and 1 person is in critical condition after a hot air balloon they were riding in hit power lines in New Mexico's largest city. Police say the crash took place around 7 a.m. on Saturday morning on Albuquerque's west side. Emergency officials describe what they first saw when they arrived on scene of that horrific hot air balloon crash.
A very tragic situation. Our officers, who arrived first on scene, had a tough time when they saw what they saw. These things are just horrible anytime they happen. We know from experience here in Albuquerque that sometimes winds kick up or things happen that make it difficult for balloons to navigate. We're not sure the cause of this at this point. Obviously, the FAA will look into this and determine what the cause was. Fortunately, fatal accidents are pretty rare. And obviously we host the Balloon Fiesta, and we're used to dealing with these sorts of things, and the balloons are experts at navigating. But sometimes there's tragedy that can occur, and that appears to be what happened today.
Rescue workers are still holding out hope that we'll find survivors as they've worked for 5 days in a row digging through rubble of a partially collapsed condo building outside of Miami. There are 9 confirmed deaths, but more than 150, including 4 Canadians, are still missing. Some of the survivors of the collapsed building attended a Sunday service, and one of them described what he saw moments before the disaster struck.
Our apartment it shook when the second boom happened. You know, that everything that I saw when I opened the door, you know, facing east, there was nothing there. You know, it was just darkness. I have a lot of survivor's guilt on this. You know, why me and why not my neighbor from 604? She was like a lovely lady, you know, and I hope to God that they're going to find somebody. But man, you know, if you saw what I saw, and then, you know, you go over there and you see, like, you know, all the rubble, how can somebody survive that?
As we were driving here right now, it was like, wow, it's right there, right next to our church.
The only thing left for us to do is to have faith in God, that He will carry all of us through, these poor families, to wait and see for their loved ones, but some closure to this anxiety.
A search dog named Oreo is helping crews look for survivors and victims of that building collapse near Miami.
Normally, if they're really, really young, actually she can go wherever she wants. That's one of the things of the size. That's why I like it very much. Is that he can go into cribs, into voids that big dog would normally don't go, and also because of the weight. She can go in other places that have more instability that another dog cannot go.
Hopefully you had a chance to escape some of the searing heat in our province today. The heat warning for much of southern Alberta continued from Environment Canada. But how long will it last? Jeanette Rocher will have all of the weather details coming up. Well, the record hot temperatures continued for much of Western Canada. Jeanette Rocher is back with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, for those of us who don't have air conditioning in our homes, will a reprieve be coming anytime soon?
Well, hell, unfortunately not soon enough for those of you who do not have air conditioning. I wish I had some better news for you. Environment Canada is calling this a historic heat wave because of the potential to break so many records all in 1 week, all at one time here, and it is considered to be prolonged and also dangerous. So that means potential for heat stroke, heat exhaustion. Definitely monitor for those signs. So tomorrow's temperature, we're looking at 32 degrees, sunshine. Look at these temperatures for Wednesday and Thursday, 37 degrees for both of those days. Both of those days, we're looking at breaking records. Same thing for Friday, same thing for Saturday, 35 degrees on Friday, 34 for Saturday. Sunday, 33. Unfortunately, even in the evening, there isn't much of a reprieve from the heat as our overnight temperatures are expected to hover around 15 to 25 degrees. So I don't know what to tell you if you don't have air conditioning. Set up lots of fans, that's all I can say. Maybe get a little baby pool or something. Average high for this time of year, 24 degrees, so we're well above that this week. 10 degrees, the average low. 34 was our high temperature. It was actually 33.5 degrees back in 1984, so we are looking at possibly breaking that or tying with that today. 0 was our cold temperature. Can you imagine that? Back in 1946. 5:26 is when the sun rose this morning, and sunset this evening at 5:43 p.m. So still looking at about 16 hours or more of daylight these days. Now there are heat warnings in effect all over the place, including BC, which is looking at lasting until possibly tomorrow. 29 degrees tomorrow, the high for Victoria. That's actually the lowest that they have been since the weekend. 30 degrees in Vancouver, 34 the high in Edmonton, 37 in Calgary. So like I said, the heat wave, not just here in southern Alberta, it's throughout all of Alberta with those temperatures scorching. Same thing for Saskatchewan. Saskatoon's high, 34, 30 degrees in Regina and 29 in Winnipeg with lots of sunshine. Also the humidex in effect as well. So going to be hot and humid. Speaking of humidity, that humidity building up to cause showers in Toronto, 60% chance of showers tomorrow, building up to a risk of a thunderstorm by tomorrow, high 30 degrees, 31 in both Ottawa and Montreal. Both of those areas looking at hot and humid conditions. 29 the high in Fredericton, also very warm and humid, looking at a 30% chance of showers. Same thing for Halifax, 30% chance of showers, 27 the high. 24 the high in Charlottetown, looking at 2 to 4 millimeters of rain expected there tomorrow. 13, that seems to be the cool spot in Canada for tomorrow. Should feel a little bit warmer inland, about more like 19 degrees in St. John's tomorrow. So lots of sunshine there too. So there you go. That is your forecast.
Today's weather is brought to you by Jeff Reimer of Royal LePage South Country Real Estates, 403 380 1779.
Amazon has announced plans to build a new high-tech warehouse east of Edmonton that will use robotics to help employees in their tasks. The e-commerce giant says the warehouse in Parkland County is expected to open sometime next year. Amazon says it will create more than 1,000 full and part-time jobs. Robotics will be used to help pick, pack, and ship small items such as books, electronics, and toys. A wireless infrastructure company that is a majority owned by the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board is buying the largest privately held telecommunications infrastructure company in the United States. BAI Communications says the acquisition of Mobility is a major expansion of its business in North America. CPP Investments and the Alberta Investment Management Corporation also announced a $2.4 billion commitment to support BAI's global growth strategy. AIMCO is a minority investor in BAI. Luxury fashion brand Burberry is on the lookout for a new boss after revealing that CEO Marco Gobbetti is quitting his job at the end of the year. The company says he will leave the UK-based retailer after 5 years at the helm to take up a new unspecified role in Italy closer to his family. During his tenure, Gobbetti worked to get more Burberry products to be sold at higher prices and rely less on discounts and sales. He also strove to improve Burberry's marketing and to focus more on wealthy young people. For the first time in a decade, a Canadian NHL franchise will be competing in the Stanley Cup Finals. Ticket resellers are looking to capitalize. Word is, if someone is wanting to attend Montreal's Bell Centre for Game 3, they'll have to dish out at least $4,500 US per ticket via StubHub. It will be the first Stanley Cup Finals match played in Montreal since the Habs won it all back in '93. In the semifinals matchup against Vegas, the Canadiens were only allowed 3,500 fans in the building due to the province's COVID-19 restrictions. At this point, it is unclear if an exception will be made to boost capacity ahead of the historic event. The Bell Centre can seat just over 21,000 fans. When it comes to helping people financially and spiritually, there are some solid Christian organizations out there. Lance Wood is an accountant and author of the book $4.83, The Cost to Impact the Life of a Child for a Year. Lance has some tips when it comes to getting ahead financially. He says when you focus on Christ while microfinancing your family, the return on investment can be huge.
The concept is that Christ-centered microfinance, which some of you may be familiar with, is the idea that you give a family an opportunity, a little loan to start a business or put them in a savings group where they begin to accumulate some wealth. And it's through that loan that they pull themselves out of poverty, both spiritual and material poverty. And when you pull the family out of poverty, they help their kids.
Lance will also discuss the value of work and why handouts are not always the best idea. That interview is coming up later in our newscast. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 85 points on the day to finish at 20,145. The Dow was down 150 points to 34,283. The S&P 500 was up 9 points to 4290, and the Nasdaq was up 140 points to 14,500. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down $1.14 to $72.91 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 12 cents to $3.62 US. Gold was up 3 cents to $17.7851 US an ounce, and silver was up a cent to $26.12 US an ounce. Wheat is at $348 per metric ton, barley's at $345, canola's at $7.69, and corn is at $404 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 72 cents to $122.10, feeder cattle were down $3.20 to $156.35, and lean hogs were up $3 to $104.95. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 81.04 US.
Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the Crown is pressing to go to trial in a 14-month-old careless driving case which claimed the life of a young boy on the west side of Lethbridge. The defense, meanwhile, says it needs more time to prepare and gather evidence. The accused, Neil Martin Scott, was charged on April 13th of last year after a 10-year-old boy was struck and killed on Whoop Up Drive near Aquitania Boulevard. Two young boys were crossing in the crosswalk with their father at the time of the accident. The 10-year-old boy later died in hospital. Scott pleaded not guilty to a single charge of careless driving. The next court hearing for the accused is July the 15th. Summer is a very busy time of year, especially when it comes to moving. Coming up, we speak with Ron Riemann from the Better Business Bureau about how you can best protect yourself from shady moving companies. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. It's time to get ready for your Canada Day celebrations. On July 1st, visit multiple sites to enjoy delicious food from various truck vendors. At Henderson Lake, that Hawaiian burger truck and Swirls ice cream truck will be set up, and at Indian Battle Park at the Baroness Picnic Shelter, enjoy treats from Kona Ice and Hickory Street Barbecue. Many more vendors and locations can be found on lethbridge.ca, or stay tuned to BCN's community calendar for more details. The Lethbridge Senior Citizens Organization is urgently looking for volunteers to take part in their Drive Happiness program. This program is to help seniors in our community who are facing extreme loneliness due to lack of accessible transportation. Volunteers will drive clients to their medical appointments, pick up groceries, and take them to important life activities. If you're interested in this opportunity and for more information, call 403-332-4320 or email volunteer@volunteerlethbridge.com. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
Well, the spring and summer months are typically the busiest time for those arranging to move their household belongings to a new home. Many of us hire a moving company to make things a little bit easier, but unfortunately, sometimes we run into unscrupulous operators that are ready to take advantage of consumers who are under stress. Joining us today to offer some advice on how to avoid these kinds of troubles is Ron Riemann, Marketplace Trust Representative with the Southern Alberta branch of the Better Business Bureau. Ron, welcome to the show. Good to have you on today.
Thanks for having me, Jeanette. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Ron, is it extremely rare for people to run into mover fraud in Alberta, or does this happen more often than we think it does?
Unfortunately, May is a busy month for the Better Business Bureau, and a lot of times this can be avoided in terms of stress and turmoil for the impending move if the consumer does his or her own homework. And when I say that, research is the biggest thing that consumers can take away from their move. It could be a smooth ride, so to speak, or it could be a rough, bumpy ride.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm curious as to how the fraud actually takes place. So I'm told that movers, sometimes a mover can actually hold your belongings hostage, so to speak. So how does this happen?
Well, let's backtrack a little bit, and let's say, for example, you're ready for your move. You make a phone call, and because it's all about convenience, and unfortunately, pandemic has left us sometimes to go that route for the phone call. The phone call is done within 15 or 20 minutes, but there's really a lot of holes in that within that conversation with the price, with how much you're being charged, day and time, location, all that stuff that's usually handled within a contract itself. So you make the move, and then what happens the day of, the movers show up to your door, and the move is by the movers. They don't have the signs, or it's a blank information on the truck, and also there's movers that are not licensed nor experienced. So they ask for a deposit up front, which I can get to that in a little bit later. So your move is now being taken care of by this company who's got your belongings, and now they're off to go to your destination. When you arrive at the destination, however, there seems to be a snag, because either they want more money, and they're not going to release the items that you've got in your vehicle. And unfortunately, they can do it two ways. You either have to pay them, or you have to get them in storage where they're going to dump off the stuff. So I guess the whole summary to this explanation I'm trying to say is, call a reputable moving company and get three quotes. Get three quotes from them, because there are a lot of really, really good moving companies out there who will come into your home, and they will actually do a virtual meeting with you to talk and discuss. And they're very good. They're very good at what they do. And spend the extra few dollars to get the move done right.
Yeah, the idea of having your furniture held hostage is kind of terrifying a little bit.
Very terrifying. It is very terrifying. It certainly is.
Yeah. Now, another way that fraudulent moving companies try to take advantage, from what we've been told, is to try to avoid that written contract that you were just talking about. So, what are the potential problems with this?
Well, first off, let's go back to the deposit itself. Reputable companies will not charge anything up front. If they do, it's a very, very, very small fee. If you get moving companies that charge 25%, I'm leery about that. Certainly anything more than 50%, you have zero control at that point. You have no control. And in fact, if you do want to make sure that you do have the information, a paper trail of the deposit, make sure it's through the credit card company so that you can always go back and see if you can dispute that. But getting back to the reputable companies, they won't charge a deposit. They'll ask for the money at the end of the delivery. And a lot of times, everything is detailed out in the contract. If it's a local move, it's based on an hourly thing. If it's a long-term move, you have to kind of like scope it out over a long period of time, and it's based on weight distribution. So there's a calculation that the moving companies do in regards to that. Make your move a lot simpler by having them talk about items that you're going to take yourself, as opposed to letting the moving company touch them. And we recommend that if there's some things that you feel you just don't feel comfortable with moving companies touch them, by all means take them with you. But for the most part, moving companies have a really, really good plan in place in making sure that the contract is rock solid.
Right. Sounds good. Now, we were talking a little bit, maybe talk a little bit more about these fly-by-night movers. And you'd mentioned these people that just kind of show up with an unmarked rental truck rather than a clearly marked company-owned fleet truck. That should raise big red flags, right?
There's always a red flag when you deal with something like this. You're right. It's an unmarked van. They'll do all their work by a laptop between the two seats in their cargo van. There's always a sense of urgency. They want the deposit right away. And because moving deals with a limited window of time, and there is a sense of urgency on the consumer's part, it's attractive to the consumer to say, hey, this person is going to get me out of a jam, and this person is going to make sure that my move is going to be run smoothly. And that's not always the case, obviously. Again, the deposit's going to be very high. You've lost zero control at that point. And sometimes the move will not be perfect. You'll probably get a lot of bumps and bruises with your furniture. Again, it could be held hostage because they'll want more money because, well, we thought the weight amount was going to be this, when in fact it's actually this. So we need a little bit more money. And if there's no contract to state that, it's just one person's word against another. And then you're on the hook for an extra unfortunately, few $1,000s at that case. So
yeah, so just watch for those sketchy business practices, right?
It's always important to make sure that you get insurance. And talk to your policy owner, policy insurance holder. Maybe they can help you and see what sort of coverage do I have. It's always good to know that reputable moving companies have their basic insurance as part of the move. We recommend that if you can afford it, get some extra insurance. And so it's kind of like rock solid. If something is busted or broken, or it's probably not, it failed to be part of the trip, or it's good to have the insurance. So certainly having insurance is really important. And again, insurance companies of your own will have that, but talk to the reputable companies. They'll have the insurance coverage for you as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice to get that moving insurance. So, of course, you mentioned there are many reputable moving companies across Lethbridge and across the province and, of course, the country as well. But then, then you get these bad guys that they'll attempt to represent themselves as one of these reputable companies. How does this even happen?
It's pretty darn easy, Jeanette, to actually start up a business, and you've got a cargo van, you've got 2-3 guys that are willing to move a lot of stuff, come up with a great website. You can claim to be a member of the Better Business Bureau or the Canadian Association of Movers. You can actually say whatever you want to say on your website. And that's where the stickiness comes into play, because at that point we tell consumers, well, all websites are not, I shouldn't say all, some websites need a little bit more homework. And that's where we come into play, the Better Business Bureau, in association with the Canadian Association of Movers. They have a great directory, and we have a great plethora of information about businesses that are they local? Do they have insurance? Is there a physical location? Will I know for sure that when the van shows up the morning of, it's going to have the company information on the side of the vehicle? Are these professional movers, are they trained to move big or small jobs? So it's, you read all the stories, you see all the stories as well. And one of the big things, when a lot of consumers who are frauded by moving companies wish they could take back, was that they had done their homework earlier. They did a little bit more research. Research is the most important key through this whole thing.
Absolutely. Now, apparently some of these companies will actually use fake Google reviews. So is there a way to spot that?
We noticed that if you see a dozen to 24 reviews, and they seem to have a bit of a trend that there's always 5 stars, and it seems to be worded the same way, it's a fake review. Most companies would like to think that they're always going to get 5 stars, and most reputable companies will always have that 5-star review. But if you get the odd 1 or 2 or 3-star review mixed in too, then you know that there's a little bit of credibility in the reviews itself. But notice the wording in the review itself: 5 stars all the time. And that if it's the same explanation or it's the same amount of wordage in that review, then it's not always a true review in itself.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned that people can contact the Better Business Bureau, or of course the Canadian Association of Movers member directly to check out your mover first. So how do people do that? Where can they go for that?
Certainly, they can come to our website at bbb.org, and we can help you with information about any mover in the Southern Alberta and East Kootenays region, and we can help you with that. And we can tell you if they're licensed. We can tell you how long they've been in operation. We can tell you their letter grade. We can tell you if there's any complaints, and we can tell you if they're going to get the job done from the information that's on their business profile on our website. The Canadian Association of Movers has a wonderful directory where you can touch base with their website, and you'll know that these businesses are members of this actual mover site, Canadian Association of Movers, and they pay a fee. And so these are reputable, very good movers that are on this website here, and they can actually go to the Canadian Association of Movers website. I don't have their website information offhand, but if you just type it in the search bar, you'll be able to find it.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, if you do have a bad experience with a moving company, how can you actually go about filing a complaint?
With a complaint against the moving company itself, you have 60 days to file a claim against the moving company. If you feel you want to take it to the next level, so to speak, you can contact us at the Better Business Bureau, again, bbb.org. If you feel that you're justified to file a complaint and you feel you've got no resolution from the moving company itself, then we encourage you to go to our website. And again, if it's also with a reputable mover within the Canadian Association of Movers, or if you want to talk to them for that matter, go talk to them as well. They'll be able to help you too. And we want to help as much as we can to make your move really smooth.
Awesome. So any last piece of advice for those who live in Lethbridge? Well, especially because we're so windy here, right? So maybe strap down your stuff if you're moving in an open trailer, or so it doesn't blow away in our crazy winds.
You hit the nail right on the head,
Yeah.
Jeanette. That's exactly right, to make sure everything is strapped down and make sure that you know exactly what you've got on your contract, have everything detailed out. Wouldn't it be a bad idea to actually take some pictures of some of the stuff that is going in that impending move? And then you've got some video information as well. Have an itemized list, give a copy of that list to the mover, exactly, and they'll have a copy of it. Don't forget about the insurance, that's always important. And make sure it's, again, a reputable company. Pay the extra little bit of money to get the move done right. And there's certainly a lot of great companies out there. Do your homework, get 3 quotes, and you'll be surprised how stress-free rather your move will actually be.
Awesome. That is some great piece of advice. Thanks so much, Ron, for being with us today. Ron Riemann is the Marketplace Trust Representative with the Southern Alberta branch of the Better Business Bureau.
Thanks, Jeanette. I've enjoyed it. Thank you again.
COVID-19 has affected so many of us physically, financially, spiritually, and mentally, but it has also had a major real impact on the world's poor. A number of Christian organizations are doing some great work to help people financially during difficult times, including through microfinance. We're going to learn how this works in just a moment, and how you can get involved to make a difference as well. Joining us today to talk about this is Lance Wood. He's a business person and co-author of the book, $4.83, The Cost to Impact the Life of a Child for a Year, Maybe Forever. Welcome to Bridge City News, Lance.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Hal.
So how did you come up with that title? And that's quite the long title as well of a book, $4.83.
It is a long,
title,
but the point is the number, $4.83. The concept is that Christ-centered microfinance, which some of you may be familiar with, is the idea that you give a family an opportunity, a little loan to start a business or put them in a savings group where they begin to accumulate some wealth. And it's through that loan that they pull themselves out of poverty, both spiritual and material poverty. And when you pull the family out of poverty, they help their kids. And so in Christ-centered microfinance, it costs about $20 to help a family for a year, to get a little business and to help them out of poverty. And when you divide the 20 by the number of people in the family, average of 4, it works out to be $4.83 based on some financial statements that we reviewed of one of the organizations.
Wow. Now, Lance, talking about giving money sometimes makes people a little uncomfortable. Why do you think the Bible mentions money or possessions more than 2,000 times?
Because money impacts our hearts, right? I mean, what happens is the Bible talks about where your heart is, your treasure is also. And where your treasure is, your heart is also. And so the point is that the way we hold money, either tightly or with open hands, affects our relationship with Jesus.
Now, can you give us a bit of a layman's idea of what you mean by microfinance?
Yeah, again, it's the concept. I'll just give you an example. The way that it works is an organization goes to a little community and they don't know anybody. But they know that everybody knows everybody in the community, and they say, we're here to help. We're here to help you get a little business, and we don't know you, but we know that you know each other, so we're going to put you in groups of 5. And be careful who you allow into your group of 5, because you're going to cross-guarantee each other's loans. So if one person doesn't pay, the others have to pay. So what starts out as a business transaction creates this group of 5 because they pick carefully. And they then make the loans. Everybody gets their businesses. How maybe you get chickens and you're selling eggs. I buy the equipment for a little oven and make bread. Well, I buy all my eggs from you. You buy all your bread from me. Out of nothing, we create a little business community. And we're meeting every 2 weeks to repay loans, to study the Bible, to see what the Bible says about doing business with integrity and honest, and to learn about Jesus. And what happens is, out of nothing, and I just want to stop here. The World Bank interviewed people in poverty, and they just asked them, what's going on? And they said, we feel humiliated, we feel isolated, we feel inferior, we feel ashamed, we feel disconnected, we feel hopeless, we have fear. Well, what happens when they put this little community together, that now they've all got little businesses, they all are meeting weekly or bi-weekly, they're taking care of each other, they're studying the Word of God, all that stuff changes. It's not just about the money. What happens is they pull themselves out of poverty, including now they no longer feel inferior. Now they no longer are afraid. Now they aren't isolated. They aren't depressed, and they have hope. So this financial tool winds up creating an amazing effect on people's lives.
All that talk of chicken, now I'm kind of craving a little bit of fried chicken and maybe some fried eggs at the same time here.
There
now,
you
Lance,
go.
Your book delves into different ways the kids win through microfinance. What are some of those ways specifically, and how can they really make a difference?
Yeah, great. And so the point is, when people think of Christ-centered microfinance, they think of the parents being helped, but there's tons of research and just as intuitive that when the parents get help, they pull their kids out of poverty with them and the family thrives. So some of the things are food, right? Instead of one meal a day, now two. Instead of no clothes or no shoes, clothes and shoes. Instead, housing, education, healthcare, modeling that work is valuable. And also they grow spiritually because as their parents grow spiritually, they move towards the church and move towards Jesus.
Now, you talk a lot about work and the value of work and why it may be a bad idea to just give handouts, which a lot of governments have been doing during the pandemic. Why are you putting so much value on work?
Hal, there's a great book about this written by Bob Lupton. It's called Toxic Charity. And what it says is the first time somebody gets a handout, they appreciate it. And the second time they anticipate it. And the third time they feel they expect it. And the fourth time they feel entitled. And the fifth time it creates dependency and it wrecks people's lives because God made us to work and to value work and to have the dignity of valuing work. And so that's the way God made us. That's the way Christ-centered microfinance does it. The people never get given anything. All they get is an opportunity like, frankly, me and you were born with.
You know, my father, he instilled that hard work ethic in me. My father was a baby boomer, may he rest in peace. And you're right, it rubbed off on me. He raised me that way, and nothing comes for free. And that phone's not going to ring off the hook. You got to be assertive, get out there, be aggressive, and work hard for everything you get. Now, Lance, how are the strength and stability of the family, speaking of like moms and dads here, a key indicator of a society's health?
I like the way you say that, mums and dads. But God made the family to be an institution, and it absolutely is true. We see it all around the developing world, and we see it in our world. That when the family breaks down, society falls apart. God just made it that way. It's true there. It's true here. And we see that in people in poverty. That when the families thrive, the kids thrive, and the cycle of poverty is broken.
Now, you're right that poverty affects every part of the human experience. In what way specifically?
Oh, you know, I mentioned that World Bank study that said people in poverty, they feel inferior, they feel ashamed. I think, oh, they don't have any money or they need a job. That's just a part of it. It's everything. It's what they say we feel oppressed and depressed. But I think one of the biggest things, they feel isolated from each other and isolated from God. Poverty is just it's a blanket over you that holds you down.
Lance, the availability of affordable housing is an issue all around the world, even here in Lethbridge, where we have a real homeless problem, and trying to get affordable housing for young people and for seniors as well, for that matter. What is the answer to homelessness, even in first world countries?
You know, I'm not sure that I'm the person to answer that, but let me just say, from my experience around seeing people in absolute poverty, having ownership and having hope and being able to look to the future changes something. And as they begin to work for themselves, they can begin to put a roof over their heads and ultimately own a home.
Now, explain what you mean by the terms short-term thinking or survival thinking.
Yeah, and this is a trap, right? When there's a crisis, you get stuck in crisis. You've got to have relief from the outside. And personally, that's when I believe it's appropriate to have relief and gift. When it's a trap, it's a crisis, it's an immediate problem. But a person can't be in that forever. They have to have an avenue to begin to look forward and to begin to hope and to begin to move out of poverty. And again, that's what Christ-centered microfinance does. Another type of Christ-centered microfinance, I talked about a loan, but actually is a savings group where you cause people to come together and everybody just puts in 25 cents. And it's amazing that just doing that, and then they loan the money out to each other to start little businesses, just doing that takes the focus off of I'm going to survive for another day and I'm just going to spend everything I get and hope I can eat, to now people start looking to the future and start moving and saving, and it's just amazing.
You know, some people, Lance, actually have a bit of an issue with the term in the Bible, it's better to give than to receive, especially during the pandemic when so many families are hurting. They find it might be even harder to give. But what you're trying to tell me right now is that it's still important to give even during the dark times.
Oh my gosh, if there ever was a time, I think God made us for this, right? It's like Esther, if this is your time. And there's opportunity. It's God's plan that's unfolding right now. And I believe I believe you are called to be a part of it. What is your role? Can you hear God's voice? And how can you step in? And maybe Christ-centered microfinance isn't God's plan for you, but I tell you what, whatever it is, lean in now, listen for God's voice and step forward. It's been such a blessing in my life.
Listen to that still small voice. And sometimes it's a powerful voice too, like hits you like a ton of bricks over the head. So God has subtle ways and very powerful ways of reaching our hearts, definitely. Lance, describe what you mean by a holistic approach to poverty.
Yeah, that's great, Hal. So it's easy to just give somebody something when you see them in poverty. It's a lot harder to help break the destructive cycle of poverty in their life. So a holistic approach, to me, I care about the person's material well-being on this earth, and I also care equally, if not more, about their spiritual well-being. And a holistic approach, which is what Christ-centered microfinance is, addresses both at the same time. The people pull themselves out of poverty with dignity and with Jesus.
Now, you end your book by giving us some ideas about how we can help. Can you share some of those with us?
Oh, I would love that. Thank you. So this is a message, right? I'm not even a charity. I have a website. It's called kids-win.com, and you can go there and you can see we're starting a campaign to try to help 100,000 kids, and you'll be able to give $4.83, and that won't ever go to me. That will go to multiple 501c3 charities that are helping kids through Christ-centered microfinance. And so I'm trying to just raise the bar, raise the awareness, cause people to understand. I'm an accountant. I'm a business guy. I can hardly believe that $4.83 can really change the life of a kid. And we have a big problem right now. 700 million people are in extreme poverty, underneath $1.90 a day a living, and 400 million of them are children. And UNICEF tells us that 3.5 million children a year will die of malnutrition and starvation, 10,000 kids a day. So the problem is huge. COVID has made it worse. As you can imagine, COVID hurt us, yes, but the people that are just living day to day, hand to mouth, it's killing them. It's killing them. And
yeah, we hear so much of the hardships in countries in Africa with a lot of families that are struggling. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of starvation, a lot of death in various countries. But you know what? It's also impacted us here in North America. We see a lot of cities where a lot of families, and there's a lot of starvation here in North America as well, Canada and the United States.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to answer your question about what can they do, go to our website, kids-win.com. You can get connected to somebody that's doing Christ-centered microfinance. You can learn more about it. You can read stories and see videos on our website. And you could buy the book and tell your friends. We're just trying to get the message out that this is a model that's working right now. It's amazing in terms of its impact for Giving Dollar, and we'd love for you to be a part of it.
One thing I want to ask you, though, Lance, before I let you go, what made you become an accountant?
I wanted to be rich. My dad was in business. I worked for a big firm. I worked for Arthur Andersen at first, and then PwC. I was a tax partner there, and I just could. I wanted the life, and I wanted to be wealthy.
And now?
And now God has put it on my heart to be in ministry full time and to give more and to be part of His unfolding plan.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for your time today, Lance. We really appreciate you joining us from Irvine, California.
Thanks, Hal. God bless you.
You too. Lance Wood is the co-author of the book, $4.83, The Cost to Impact the Life of a Child for a Year, Maybe Forever. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.